The book of Joshua, session number 45. Joshua chapter 12. Now these are the kings of the land which the children of Israel smote. Smote is kill. And possessed their land on the other side of the Jordan towards the rising of the sun, from the river Arnon unto Mount Hermon, and all the plain on the east. So looking at the map of Israel, you'll see that towards the east is towards the Babylonian side, on the eastern side of the Jordan River. So Sihon, king of the Amorites, dwelt in Heshbon and ruled from Arur, which is upon the bank of the river Arnon, and from the middle of the river, and from Gilead even unto the river Yabok, which is in the border of the children of Ammon. If you think back 2 years ago, approximately, we were studying how Jacob returned from the land of the east. He returned back to his father. Jacob came back with his 12 sons. Do you remember? The full tribes of Israel, the restored house of Jacob. Jacob with his 12 sons came from the east, traveling towards the west, traveling towards the promised land, going back to Hebron, where Isaac was staying, where Abraham stayed, and there Jacob stayed. This is amazing. These kings that ruled these areas. We can see in the history of Genesis how our forefathers, who is the roots of the olive tree, how they came back. And you remember this amazing, I think we spent like 2 or 3 sessions on this God that met Jacob at the Yabok River and changed his name. Because Jacob, representing all of Israel, why? Well, even his name was changed from Jacob to Israel, representing us, the whole entire kingdom, from his time up to today. Coming back out of Babylon, coming out of the whore of Babylon system, where the Jews that call themselves Jews, but they're not, they are part of the Nimrod Babylonian system, where they are ruling and reigning the religion and the education and the government of this world. How we come, and we also have to cross the Yabok River, and just like Joshua, we have to smite, kill, destroy in our lives the fear of these kings that rule even up to the Yabok River. This is where we started our journey. Genesis 32 verse 22. Do you remember? Go those verses again and remember what we discussed there. How our struggle, not against God, but our struggle with God, our wrestling right through the night, right through the dark night, where our fear for Esau, for rulers that has 400 people with them, and we are only Jacob and his couple of children and his wives and a couple of servants, and we are scared of what's happening and what's going to wait for us on the other side of the river. And God meets us, and we struggle through the dark night of the tribulation and the persecution and the choices we make not to be part of this world system, not to be part of Babylon anymore, not to be scared that we cannot eventually buy and sell, not to be scared that if we don't bow before the image of the beast that our heads will be chopped off, struggling with God through the don't bow before the image of the beast that our heads will be chopped off, struggling with God through the night, through the dark times that is lying ahead, understanding that when the dawn comes, the Bible says, the righteous ones, if you follow God, the Son of Righteousness will rise for you with healing in his wings. So when the dawn comes, the angel of Yahuwah wanted to leave Jacob, and he said, no, you bless me first. And the angel of Yahuwah spoke as if he was Yahuwah, because he was indeed the manifestation of Yahuwah, Yeshua himself, the angel of the Lord. And he changed his name to Israel. And he gave him a sign. Poor Jacob had a poor hip. He was hurt. He was damaged in his hip. He had a sign. He had proof. He was wearing the wounds of his commitment to God the rest of his life. And although he had a struggle and a wrestling through the dark night at the Jabbok River, he overcome the kings of this side of the Jordan, the kings of fear, the kings of the east, and the kings of the eastern religions that is currently bringing fear into our lives. We as Jacob, Jacob's seed, but we carry the wounds of our affliction, the wounds of affliction. We are not scared for the night of wrestling at the Jabbok River. We don't have to be. Jacob overcame it with Yahuwah, Israel, overcoming with El, overcoming in El. So did Joshua, and he smote the kings, even up to the Jabbok River. And from the plain to the sea of Chinneroth, of the giants that dwelt in Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth makes me think of Astarte and Easter, Iastre and Ishtar. All these names are connected. These are the pagan rulers, giants of the world, and they worship the false gods that we still see permeating in religion today. People still worship Easter, Ishtar, Ashtaroth. They still are part of this Och of Bashan, this Nimrod Babylonian system. Because Och of Bashan, verse 5, also reigned in Mount Hermon. We know what happened at Mount Hermon, the fallen angels, the Gibrim, the mighty ones, the sons of God, came down at Mount Hermon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to Genesis 6. Mount Hermon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to Genesis 6. So these are the rulers that represents the mixed demonic seed in the one world religion, worshipping Ishtar and the enlightened one, Lucifer, the sun god religions. They might claim all kinds of other religions, they are, but if you break it down, like when you come into a Freemasons lodge, the first 3 levels, if you're a Christian, you've got your Bible. If you're a Muslim, you've got your Quran. If you're a Jew, you've got your Torah. But at the end of those steps, following up into the grades, all the religions fall away and all come down to the Kabbalah and the enlightened Moshiach, Lucifer himself. Then did Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, and the children of Israel smelt. Then did Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, and the children of Israel smite, and Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, gave it for a possession unto the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh. They took it back through Moses, and later on Joshua finished the job. We took it back. We took back the covenant of God, the covenant land, the holy land, the promise God made. The place where God had his tree of life, the place where Jacob dreamed about the connection between heaven and earth, where he slept and he dreamed about the ladder, the Hamakom, this place, this holy land of God that has more blood. The Middle East has more blood in the ground than any other piece of land over the world, because of no other reason that started in Genesis 3 and that will only culminate and end in Revelation 22. Revelation 21, when God himself comes down with the New Jerusalem in this holy land, and the mouth that proceeds from his, the fire that proceeds from his mouth destroys all these kings. You know what, the seed of these kings still rule today. They are still trying to take not only the land, but the covenant and the people, and finish the job that the serpent started in Genesis, to depopulate the whole world and only leave their chosen seed and breed, the Giburim, the mighty men of Genesis 6. Oh, lots of information there. I don't even know where to start. But we will take it back. We took it back physically, yeah, in Joshua. But we didn't take it. We will take it back. We took it back physically, yeah, in Joshua. But we didn't take it back completely. If we continue, we'll see that Israel never obeyed the commandment in full to cleanse the land 100%. They left many of these nations alive. And these nations still rule and reign. The giants, the rulers of this world, are all from this Och of Bashan, Nimrod serpent system. Still ruling and reigning. But their roots has been destroyed. The remnant, the resurrected, the invoked seed of these kings still want to destroy the God of Israel. But its roots has been destroyed already by Moses and Joshua. And the remnant, the oorblyfsel, the remainder of their kingdom, as we see here today in the Bible, standing up against God and His anointed, breaking all of God's commandments. You're not even allowed, in America, the definition of woman has been changed to a child bearer. Because why? Because it's discrimination against other genders. Men that identify themselves as another gender, they also want to be included. It must be inclusive. There can be no politically incorrect definitions anymore. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to start opening your eyes and see how all the laws of God is being made unlawful. To call a woman is becoming unlawful in the definitions of the world rulers. You're a child bearer. Of the world rulers. You're a child bearer. Little boys, can go into little girls' bathrooms if they identify as girls. And look at Will Smith's boy. He became a girl. And Charlize Theron and all these celebrities are bringing in the rainbow new generation world for the new world order. They are changing the definitions of the Bible. We will take it all back. We are a few now. Jacob was only a few, only him and his 12 sons and his couple of wives. Symbolizing how we come out of this eastern kingdom back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's promised land. And through Joshua and Moses, we smite these kings. But because they didn't smite them totally, we still sit in this Babylonian kingdom that is ruled by these guys. But we have the courage and the encouragement that the roots has been chopped off. This tree of knowledge of good and evil, the roots has been chopped off. The one came that stepped onto the head and crushed the head of the serpent. He still bites him in the heel. He still bites us in the heel. The dragon is still angry with the remnant of the seed of the woman, those who obey the commandments of Yahuwah and has the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. He's still biting, and that's hurting and it's difficult. But we have to understand, his head has been crushed. Hierdie is die stuiptrekkings van sy dood. These are only, the spasm. The spasms of the snake is bad, but his head has been crushed. We can see the encouragement in the foundation, and we must do the same in our lives today until Yeshua comes back and he finally destroys them forever. Praise be to Yahuwah. And these are the kings of the country that Joshua and the children of Israel smote on this side of the Jordan, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon unto the Mount Halak, that goes up to Seir, which Joshua gave unto the tribes of Israel for a possession. In the mountains, the valleys, the plains, the springs, in the wilderness, the south country, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites, they can try to gather together. They can form their societies and their unions and their confederacies and their conferences, and they can gather again together out of the plains and the Baal Gad and the Lebanon And the mountains and the valleys and the springs and the south and the east and the west, and they all and the mountains and the valleys and the springs and the south and the east and the west, and they all gathered together against the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and against his anointed. All the Jebusites and the Canaanites and the Amorites and all these parasites and viruses, they can all gather together against the Torah, and bring in all these new mandates that will change people into their species. On the long run, part of this whole new industrial revolution agenda they have with technology and artificial intelligence and nanotechnology that is being brought into this world to create the smart city power grid of the city of Babel. But God is waiting for them. Let them gather. God allowed them to gather at the tower, waiting for them. Let them gather. God allowed them to gather at the Tower of Babel. He allowed them even to build the tower. He allowed them even to think that they are going to succeed. If you read the extra biblical books, you'll see that it took such a long time. They proceeded and progressed so far that it took such a long time for somebody to bring up new bricks, walking up the Tower of Babel, that if the guy slipped and fell and he died, the people didn't cry about him. They cried about the bricks that was lost, because that's how far God allowed them to progress. And then he said, let us, come, my son, come, my holy angels. Let us go and see what they're doing. And then he confused Babylon, Babel, their languages, headquarters. So try to gather again together, you kings. God is waiting for you. The king of Jericho, on the side of Bethel, the king of Ai, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Yarmuth, Lachish, Echlon, Gezer, Deberg, Cedar, Horman, Arad, Libna, Abdullam, Makkedah, Bethel, Tapula, Hefer, Afek, Lashron, Madon, Hazor, Shimron, Meron, wat is dit? Achshpa, Ta'anak, Megiddo, Kedesh, Yoknim, Carmel, Dor, and Gilgal, and Tirzah. All these kings are 31. One by one they fell. 33-degree masonry. Here by degree 31, you are so high up. Masonry. Here by degree 31, you are so high up. But you're not at the top yet. The top is only the 1% of the rulers of this world. One by one they fell. One by one they will fall again. Don't be dismayed by them. Through the hand of Joshua, God has smitten with the edge of the sword all these kings. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. And what continues? What continues? What comes after these kings are smitten down? Joshua chapter 13. Now Joshua was old and stricken in age, and Yahuwah said unto him, you are old and stricken in age. Oh, it's funny. The Bible says he was old and stricken, and God said to him, hey, Joshua, you're old and stricken now. You must now relax. The theme of those studies is, are you tired already? We are only starting to identify all these kings and rulers of the world. The battle hasn't even started yet. And yet many of us are tired already. And here Joshua, he never even thought about getting tired. He was fighting, and he smote down these 31 kings and everything else he did. He had to struggle through Achan and the rebellion within the camp, and learning how to bring in pagan whores into the tribe of Judah, and he had to deal with all these things. The circumcision of his tribe leaders and the whole camp. And he was just working for God, serving him with a heart that is different than the rest of the camp. Why? With a heart that is different than the rest of the camp. Why? Remember when Moses sent out the 12 spies? It was only Caleb and Joshua that had a different spirit inside of them. And this different spirit gave Joshua the encouragement, and he kept on fighting and fighting. And I think God had to put his hand on Joshua's shoulder and say, hey, Joshua, you are now old and stricken in years, and there remains yet very much land that is still to be possessed. But Joshua, you are now old. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have done what I've commanded you to do. Beautiful, ne? This is the land still that remains, God says to Joshua. All the borders of the Philistines, all the borders of the Philistines, all the borders of Geshuri, Shihor, which is before Egypt, even unto the borders of Ekron, which is in the north, that's counted to the Canaanites, the 5 lords, the 5 kings of the Philistines, Gazashites, Ashdonites, Ashkelonites, the Gittites, the Ekronites, and the Avites. Joshua, all this is still ahead. But your work is done. But there's still much. Are you tired already? God knows when we are too tired to continue. When we have done our part. Joshua, you have done your part. You can now give over to the next generation. If we are not going to teach our children, then when we get old and stricken and tired by these battles that's lying ahead, the next generation will make the same mistake as what Israel did after Joshua not complete the commandments of God. All these nations are left, the south, all the land of Canaan, Meirah, Sidonians, Apek, the Amorites, the Gibeonites, the Lebanon, towards the sun rising, the inhabitants of the hill country, Lebanon, Mishpre, Roth, Maim, and the Sidonians. Them I will drive out from before the children of Israel. Only now divide you it by lot unto the children of Israel for an inheritance, as I have commanded you. So although Joshua is not going to continue fighting, although Joshua, maybe he was very sad, he said, no, God, I can still fight. God said, no, you're old, you're stricken by age. But Joshua, symbolizing Yeshua, is the one that has the privilege of, as Moses commanded, as God gave through the law by Moses, is given to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And here, Joshua has the privilege because he represents Yeshua. He is the one that gives out the inheritance to the children of Abraham that believes in God, obeys him, comes out of Egypt, survive the wilderness journey, learn the Torah, get circumcised by the Jordan, eat the fruit of the land. These are the people, together with all those resurrected seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob throughout the last 6,000 years. We will inherit the land. It will be divided for us, a good portion. Remember how I showed you in the previous session, even how David said, the lines that you have allotted to me is pleasant. I accept it. It's beautiful. And here before I accept it. It's beautiful. And here before the rest of the battle continues, there's a bit of peace. There was peace. There was a time that God made his children to stand still. Look back at the battles that has taken place. Look forward to the battles that's lying ahead. But now today, get your reward. See how this land is already given to you, even though the enemy is not even destroyed yet. Only the roots are chopped off from Genesis 3 verse 15. But these kings are still in this world, ruling and reigning. But I'm proving to you that you have a hope that will not disappoint you. the land is allotted, divided up into the inheritance of the 12 tribes. And we see the prophetic manifest. New Jerusalem comes down, and there's 12 gates, 12 foundations, and 12 pearls at each gate for the 12 tribes that the land is divided up into as an inheritance. God gives his promise, no matter what the condition of the kings of this land is, or the kings of this world. And this piece of land, this bloody piece of land, where so much wars and battles since the time of Genesis, all the way up to today. If you go through the whole Babylon taking over the land, and Media and Persia and Greeks and Romans and Roman Empire, Ottoman Empire, British Empire, Palestinian, the whole Islam Empire, and now the Jewish Empire ruled by the Bala Jews. This land is permeating with blood and death and destruction, because the serpent just don't want to give up this land. He continues. It is one of the smallest pieces of land on this earth, and yet is the one over which the most battles in the last 6 millenniums have taken place. This is where, if you understand all the wars in this modern age, and if you understand what happened at 9/11, and if you understand all these political agendas, you'll see how everything points back to bringing the one world religion headquarters at the place where the throne of David is, where God rules and reigns from the temple. That's why there will be built another temple, a third one. That's why Satan says in Isaiah, is it Isaiah 11? You know, I will ascend up, and I will sit on the throne as if I am God, to be worshipped by God. Ezekiel 28, Isaiah 11, 2 Thessalonians. This is where the ruler of this world, the beast, will rule and reign from, and everything is coming back. It's like all roads lead to Rome. No. All roads lead back to this promised land. One of the smallest pieces of land. One of the biggest contentions about this land. Because Satan and his rulers has never given up. He has worked through all these religions and all these kingdoms, from the head of gold of the dream of the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, all the way down to the 10 toes of today. Even before the battle plan was completed, the covenant inheritance is allocated. The battle never got completed then because, well, on the one side, the children of Israel got spoiled. They got what they wanted. The moment you get what you want, you stop obeying. Because it says in verse 13 of Joshua 13, nevertheless the children of Israel expelled not the Geshurites, the Maacathites. They dwell among the children of Israel unto this day. So the enemy rules still today, not only the world, but they rule from right here, pretending to be the Jews. But they are the Jews. But they are actually from the synagogue of Satan. And they have changed over all the religions. When you break down all the religions, you come only to the sun god of Egypt that they inherited from Babylon. That they again inherited from Genesis 6. That they again inherited from the roots of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The land is divided, but Israel didn't complete the journey because everything in the Old Testament, Paul says, is an example and a prophecy and lessons for us. We are, us and our children, are the last generation. We are reading the signs of the end times. We are preparing to finish this battle in the name of Yahuwah, our Savior, Yeshua, who brought us under his blood to this point, who's going to help us cross the Jordan River. And he himself, with his own sword, will circumcise us. And he with his own sword will lead us. And he is the one that will take the victory of the battle. And he's the one that will divide the inheritance. Because we allowed the Geshurites and Maacathites and all these tites, like Paul says in the New Testament, to be a thorn in our side up to this day. Just like God warned us in Deuteronomy, if you don't completely destroy these pagans, this Nephilim genetic mixture seed from the fallen angels who made themselves gods, 70 nations, 70 fallen angels, 70 religions, 70 people groups. They'll be a thorn in your side forever, and they will absorb you into their pagan worship, and then they will rule over you, and you will serve them. You will serve your enemy. This is all told to us in the mountain of Gerizim and I can't remember the other one. And in the valley of decisions, Deuteronomy 28 and 29, where the blessings and the curses is given to us. If we don't obey fully with a whole heart, then these curses of our enemy ruling and reigning over us and deceiving us and luring us into their pagan false religions, that'll be a thorn in our sides forever. The land is already allocated. Nothing can change that. No matter allocated, nothing can change that. No matter how many battles are lying ahead, no matter how they bring the whole world under one world religion and currency and government, no matter all that, the land is allocated. The inheritance and the covenant stands firm. Nothing that ever leaves the mouth of God can be made null and void. His word that proceeds from his mouth will never return to him void. We have to remember that while the arrogant enemy thinks that they have won and that they are ruling and reigning, they are only ruling and reigning because Yahuwah is allowing them. Like Yahuwah allowed Satan to bring calamity over Job. But that is allowed by God for the season. Don't let them who is in charge of every aspect of our world today make you fear them. Let them think they rule. The land has been allocated. And the mixed multitude that left Egypt with Israel was allocated into the 12 tribes. Just like Caleb, who was a Kenizzite. He wasn't even at all from the roots or the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He was absorbed into a tribe and made a ruler of the tribe. And so the stick of Israel with all their companions and the stick of Judah with all his companions will be made one in the hand of the King of Kings that will restore the kingdom of David and give us the physical inheritance, kingdom of David, and give us the physical inheritance that is already now cemented into the foundation of history in the Spirit. Do not be dismayed. Do not fear. Do not lose hope. Be encouraged. Only be strong, Joshua. Do not go to the left or to the right from the law that I gave my servant Moses to give to you, but write it, Joshua, on the memorial stones at the Jordan River, and read it in the ears of all of Israel. Write it on your hand and your forehead. Write it on your doorposts. Keep it with you. Let it be written on your heart by the sword, the two-edged dripping with blood.